All right, welcome back to Finding Fitness, Foundations of Strength and Conditioning. I'm excited to have everyone back again. So first, we kind of been starting out by reviewing what we've been doing previously. So through the first two sessions, we talked a lot about laying the foundations for a safe and sustainable and productive training. So making sure that we're doing things in a manner that is going to create longevity, the ability to continue training over a long period of time, and then also talking about what we can do outside of our workouts to get the most out of our time training. So today we're going to talk about how to begin building on that foundation and working towards our goals in a safe and sustainable manner. So the title of today's educational component is the principles of progression. So first, we're going to start with specificity. So specificity refers to the idea that we want to train in a manner that is specific to our desired outcomes. For example, use this example a lot. If you want to get stronger in the squat, it's clear that you're going to need to squat, repeatedly in order to improve this quality, much the same as anything in life. If you want to run faster in 100 meters, you're going to have to train relative to that. If you want to get faster at running a marathon, you're going to have to train, pursuant to those goals. So specificity is the first principle of progression. The second one is overload. So if you were to perform the same exercise for the same amount of sets and reps repeatedly, your body wouldn't have to make any real adaptations in order to sustain this. Similarly, using an example on the other end of the spectrum of running a marathon. If you were run the same distances and your body weight was the same and you were eating the same and getting the same rest, the runs wouldn't get any harder or more difficult, and your body wouldn't really have to do anything in order to sustain itself. This is where the principle of overload comes in. So overload is the concept of adding variables that increase the intensity of an exercise, which will impose new expectations on your body. So typically we're talking in terms of resistance training here. So by increasing resistance, so the weight or the amount of repetitions, the amount of times you actually perform the movement. The overarching concept is that the body will adapt to the demands you place on it. There's a principle known as the SAID or SAID principle, specific adaptations to impose demands. So simply, your body is going to change in a way that will help it adapt to what it is experiencing. So if it's experiencing you going up and down in a squat 3 times a week and adding progression each time, then it's going to have to find a way to adapt to that. Similarly, if you're doing something, if you're bench pressing all the time, it'll find a way to adapt to this stimulus that's experiencing. So SAID principle, specific adaptations to impose demands, kind of the foundation for progression from a scientific standpoint. So the third factor is progression in and of itself. So this is it refers to the various ways that you can impose new demands during exercise. So not only can you increase the repetitions or the resistance or the weight, you can alter your rest period, something that we touched on briefly previously. Increase repetitions, increase the training frequency, which would mean performing the exercise more often. So say you work out 3 times a week, increasing your training frequency to 4 times a week and performing a similar amount of work per session, you're getting a 33% increase on the amount of work you're actually doing. Same thing with increasing volume. So maybe you were working out 3 times a week for an hour. Now you're adding more volume, more sets and more repetitions or more distance to your exercise. So in a week, if you're doing 3 total hours and now you're doing 4.5 total hours over 3 sessions, that's a 50% increase in your amount of work capacity. And that's a progression in terms of increasing the total volume for the week. And again, finally, with increasing resistance. So it might be the same length of an actual workout, but you're lifting more weights, you're moving more tonnage, or you're covering more distance in that session. That's another progression. So these are all ways to build beyond your current work capacity. Talking again about the principle of overload, you need to push your body to do more in order to progress, and about specific adaptations to impose demands. Your body will not feel the need to progress unless it is being challenged and stimulated in a way that it hasn't before relative to what you're doing. The fourth concept, variability. So variability refers to using various movements within your training regimen that will lead to progress within your primary goals. So You can speak on it a little bit more generally, like sometimes, for example, it's good just to play another sport. If you're really focused on, say you're training for hockey and you do your strength and conditioning, it's good for you to play soccer sometimes or shoot around a little bit of basketball. Also, and more specifically, if you're training, again, we'll use the example of a squat. If you're training the squat, you might want to perform different versions of the squat in order to introduce some variability in your program. And the benefit of that is to keep training interesting and to introduce new challenges to the body. There's a concept called schema theory, which says that varying training within a specific goal, i.e. increasing the squat. So it improves learning and performance. So when you're using, say you just back squatted up and down over and over and over again, it's a little bit dry. It could get a little bit boring or redundant. So add in a few variations and it improves your, kind of piques your interest a little bit, which improves learning and could improve like motor unit recruitment and just like your understanding of how to actually move through those patterns a little bit more and thereby improve performance. So again, with the squat example, you could use split squats, front squats, Bulgarian split squats, leg presses, overhead squats, all as a form of variability within your pursuit to improve your back squat. So these are ways that you can start introducing introducing different factors to improve your training. So going through specificity, overload, progression, and variability. Using these concepts gives you a foundation of how to, you have this stable foundation that you're started from, and now we're going to build on it. And these are the principles that you'll use to do that. Kind of expanding on that a little bit more, it's important to do these things at a reasonable pace. So it's really important to take your time increasing these demands and to continue kind of keep that long-term perspective of, wanting to make training a lifelong pursuit and not something that lasts for 8 weeks and then you have to step back and you can't sustain it. So using these tools in a sustainable way that kind of leaves you feeling like you did a good job and you did overload your body, but not to the point where you're not sure if you're going to be able to work out in your next planned session is kind of the key here. So finding that sweet spot, using overloading and working to build up your work capacity, but not to the point where it's not sustainable. So again, we're always trying to work in that range where we can find benefits in our training, but also stay healthy and stay ready for our next training sessions. And also, I assume that most people watching this have other things going on, work, life, and family and whatnot. So you need to be able to, carry on with your day-to-day life. So finding that sustainable way to pursue these principles of progress and these sustainable ways to keep building towards the goals that you have within your training regimen. So before we move on to the training session for today, are there any questions, anything that I could maybe expand on a little bit before we start moving? All right, perfect. So thank you, Mike. We will get into today's training session. So I'm just going to make a little adjustment to the laptop here. For the warm up today, what we're going to do, we're going to start with 10 connected breaths. And then we're going to go into a Cossack squat and crossover hamstring stretch, which I'll be demonstrating. And then a McGill sit-up. We're going to do 4 reps on either side of the Cossack squat with the hamstring stretch. And then we're going to do 2 sets of 8 on either side with the McGill sit-up. So just back up here, get started. All right, so for the Cossack squat, we're going to step laterally to the side, push our hip out as far as we can, push back up, cross over our leg, and touch the ground. So do 4 going to this side. I'll do 4 going to this side. Okay, now we're going to go to the McGill sit-up. Make sure you can see me here. So have one knee up and one leg flat. And push up towards the ceiling. And switch sides. Okay. We'll take a second here, and then we're going to go into a second round of the Cossack squats. So again, stepping out to the side, cross over, touch the floor, hip out to the side, cross over, touch the floor. And switch sides. We'll go on to the Miguel sit-ups. Having a little trouble with the camera angle here. Eight on each side. Okay.
I have a question for you, Logan, if you're okay with it.
Absolutely.
What was the first exercise called again? I'm going to reference
Cossack squat and
squat.
crossover hamstring stretch.
Okay, the crossover hamstring stretch. When you're stepping to the side, notice your foot positioning, and I'm already noticing I was doing something wrong previously in my life. I think when you're putting your foot down, the direction should be kind of like not, I don't know what direction, kind of diagonal to your body when you're stepping.
So you're stepping laterally and your foot is going to be facing forward, or it can accommodate your knee a little bit by turning out a little bit to the side.
Turning, okay, cool. I think, okay, perfect. That answers my question.
Bit, but you don't want it to be like too far, like turned out. You want it to be like kind of here or here type of thing.
Okay, perfect. Well, I was doing it when it was kind of facing straight out. Traditionally, I didn't turn it at all, but I didn't know if that was an issue or whether it should be turned, but it'd be worse if it was completely turned out to the right or whichever way you're going, right?
Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to push your hip out to the side because your knee would kind of track with the way your toes pointing. So you're going to have trouble actually moving your hip out laterally.
Makes sense. Okay, great. Thank you, Logan.
Awesome. Yeah, and also my mistake, I forgot the 10 connected breaths at the start. Always good to start with some good breathing and get that habit prepared for the session, but we'll keep moving forward. So the next part of the training is going to be an overhead lunge and a bag row. So we're going to take our loaded backpack. We're going to hold it overhead. We're going to do 2 sets of 6 steps on each leg, so 12 total. And then we're going to grab the bag and we're going to row it to our chest for 12 reps. In between those sets, we're going to use our shaker cup and we're going to do a side plank with a reach. So basically we'll be in the side plank position. We're going to raise the water bottle up over top of our shoulder and kind of bring it back down, as opposed to keeping like a count on the side plank. We're just going to hold that position and we're going to perform the 6 reps, and then we're going to switch to the other side. So take a second here, and then we'll get into that second round. Mike, were you able to see me well doing the McGill sit-ups?
Yeah, your angle was better there. Yeah, you changed it. It looked good.
Okay, I was having a hard time telling because my screen isn't as big as last time. All right, we'll get into the overhead lunge and bag row now. So find a nice comfortable grip for your bag. Hold it overhead. Gonna step out, and back. Having a little trouble here. I'm just going to pulse up and down like this. 4, 5, 6. I'll switch legs. Here. Pulse up and down, just like this. Keeping the elbows locked up. I'll bring the bag down. I'll get into a nice hip hinge position, your back nice and flat. Roll it up to your chest. Hold it for 2 seconds, back down. 12 reps like this. Making sure you're keeping your back arched and not letting it round like this. All right. We're going to get into our side plank here. So, our water bottle. Check. So here, take a water bottle. Is up over our shoulder. Back down. Try and keep everything still except for your arm. Switch sides. All right. And I'll take a break. We'll perform these exercises one more time. If you're following around at home, feel free to pause the video and do an extra set, kind of condensing the session a little bit for the sake of time, but we'll like to do between 2 and 4 sets even. If you want to talk about those principles of progression, want to build on it a little bit more from the last time you did, add a set, add a few reps, whatever it is that make you feel more comfortable, to kind of add a little bit of intensity to the session. Also with the overhead lunge, really important to keep your elbows locked out. So I'm having trouble with all the books in the bag are kind of hitting my ceiling a little bit. So it's nice to actually step back between each rep. But for me, I'm doing like a lunge pulse because I'll hit the ceiling, just kind of some of the adjustments you have to make based on the space that you're using. So either or is totally good. If you need room to hold something over your head, it's good to stay in the lunge position because it'll be lower. You just kind of dip your hip up and down through the set, as opposed to pushing back, standing up fully, and then stepping back out again. All right, so we'll go into the second round of overhead lunge, bag row, and the side plank and reach. So elbows locked out, push up, drop your knee down. 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll switch sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take the bag down. It's good hip hinge position, chest up, back arch, 2-second holds. I'll move into our side plank. There, so. Up. 6 on each side. Okay. So now we're through the first two exercises of our training session. We're going to move on to section 2. So in this, we're going to use a dowel or a broomstick. If not, you can follow along without it. I'll show a variation where you won't actually need the dowel. So the first two exercises, we're going to do good morning and posture press together using the dowel, and then we're going to go on and perform contralateral limb raises, basically laying on the ground, raising one arm up and the opposite leg up, holding and switching sides. So take a second, about another minute rest, and then we'll go into the second set of exercises.
So for our folks watching, if they have a broom handle, but it actually has the broom on the end, would they be able to use that, or does it have to be void of any?
Absolutely.
There you go. Okay, folks, so grab a broom if you've got it nearby or anything.
Okay, so start off showing the good morning and the posture press. If you don't have a broomstick handy, you can put your hands behind your head and perform the good morning that way, and then just do the posture press movement without any implements. So you're just going to keep your hands up and pulling them back. So I'll show you, and then you can make that adaptation if you don't have the equipment available. So I'll show from the side again. We're really focusing on this hip hinge pattern. So hands just outside of shoulder width, and bend your knees, and really push your hips back and keep your chest up. Nice neutral head position the whole time, as low as you can go, maintaining your neutral spine. So we do 5 of these. And then 5 posture press. So we're going to press the bar up from the same position. We're going to go really slow on the way down, pulling the elbows back, keeping the chin away from the chest. 5 seconds on the way down. Really try and open up in the chest, keep that chin up. Press back up. Really slow on the way down, pulling the bar apart, keeping the chin up. Okay. Now we'll lay face down and do the contralateral limb raises. Make sure we're going to see. Okay, so laying face down, we'll start left arm and right leg. 5-second hold. Switch sides. Okay, that was really good. So um, this set of exercise kind of has a postural element to it. So really working to use the hinging movement properly with a good morning. So making sure hips are being used properly, and we're keeping that neutral spine principle. The posture press is really great for aligning the scapula and making sure the right muscles are being used to raise your hands up and down. And then the contralateral limb raise, using the smaller muscles in the backs of the shoulders, the top of the scapula, and the right muscles in the hip to raise your foot and hand off the ground. So really working the posterior of the body and focusing on some postural elements in this sequence. So we'll take a little break. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just wanted to say, yeah, performing those exercises, I can tell you, the first time I did them in that way, and I felt it. It felt good. I felt like I had to really slow down when I was bending forward to make sure I was keeping my spine in neutral position. But no, it felt good in a good way.
Excellent, and exactly that. It's we're just using a dowel, right? So the resistance isn't a major component. It's just about that quality movement that we talked about in the second session, making sure that we're moving properly through these ranges of motions and beginning to understand how we're supposed to move through those positions and doing it in a healthy and sustainable manner. So.
Well put. That's exactly, because as soon as you add weight and you're not ready for it, you're probably not moving the right way. So for me, that was a nice little aha moment. Those were some good movements for me.
Excellent. That's what we're looking for. All right, we'll go into the second round here. Just fiddling with my camera again. Okay. Gonna show from the side angle. Nice bend in the knees, chest up, nice and proud, hips back, neutral head. Back up, control the tempo. Okay, all right, press overhead. Pulling the bar apart, keeping the chin up. Nice and slow on the way down. Press back up. Pull it apart, elbows back, chest up, chin up. 2. Okay. Go back down into the contralateral limb raise. Great. All right, so there we are through 2 of our sequences for the day. The last part of our session, we're going to be moving into 2 more pushing movements. So we're going to do lunge pulses just with our hands on our hips. So we're going to be doing 2 sets of 10 per side, so a little bit more volume, increasing making a progression by doing more reps than we've typically done with the lunging motions thus far. And then we're going to do push-up, same concept. We're going to aim for 2 sets of 10. Want to say before we start, if you're doing the push-ups, absolutely no problem to do them on your knees. And it's, as always, it's just within your limit. We're kind of using some general repetition ranges for demonstration purposes, and also for anyone following along that's feeling up to the task. But for anyone, these are just suggestions. Always work within your range of ability and focus on the movement quality. That's the foundation of what we're trying to accomplish. So as long as you can move well through the reps, if you feel that's waning, just leave it and keep that movement quality through the session. Don't worry about eking out extra repetitions with poor quality movement. So we're going to do 2 sets of 10 on each side for the lunge pulse and 2 sets of 10 for the push-up, and we'll get into a little cool down here. So we get started. Again, nice and wide base. Drop the hip down. Do 10 on each side. Okay, we'll switch. Really trying to keep the torso upright, not leaning forward too much, if at all. Okay, and we're gonna go down to the push-up. Keep on to make sure you see me here. Nice and neutral position, hands underneath your shoulders. Elbows nice and close to the body, not flaring out. Okay. So really again emphasizing form and movement quality over hitting a certain amount of repetitions. Take note of how many you can do if the amount's challenging to you, and then just aim to do a little bit more your next time performing the session. Excuse me. So wait another 30 seconds or so. We'll go ahead and do our last sequence of the day, and we'll move into a little cool down. All right, let's do it. Step out, torso nice and upright. Subside. And take a second here, and then we'll move into the push-up. All right. So that ends the training sequence of the program for the day. We're going to do a quick little cool down, 2 movements. We're going to do what's called the world's greatest stretch. A pretty braggadocious name, but it really does affect a lot of joint angles and has a lot of really great benefits. So maybe aptly named. And then we're going to do the overhead tricep stretch as well.
Awesome.
So for the world's greatest stretch, we're going to do 5 reaches on each side. For the overhead tricep stretch, we're going to hold for about 15 seconds. We're going to do that 2 rounds and we finish up for the day. So last week we did the Spider-Man stretch, fairly similar. So we're going to be reaching upwards to the side. So a nice wide lunge position. We're going to drop our opposite hand down to the ground and drop our hip down. Reach underneath, up towards the ceiling, scoop back down, back up. 5 of these. Also sides. Reaching under our arm and up to the ceiling. 5. Now let's take a second here. We'll take our elbow, raise up to the ceiling, reach our hand overhead, and pull back, and kind of try and separate our, create a distance between our elbow and our chest. So it's kind of pulling up and pushing down. About 15 seconds, and we'll switch sides. Same thing, reaching your hand kind of down your back a little bit. Okay, we'll just take a brief second here, take a few breaths. We'll go back into the world's greatest, and we'll finish up the session.
Logan, quick request.
Yes.
Would you, I don't know if you have the space to do it, but could you do that world's greatest stretch facing us, just so we can kind of see where your legs are and all that? That'd be wonderful.
Absolutely, yes.
For the,
if you can tell me how well you can see me while we're doing this.
Sure.
Okay.
Looks like it's going to be good. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah? Okay, perfect.
Okay,
so
awesome.
we're here. We've got some good width between our hand and our foot. Reaching underneath, up towards the ceiling. Underneath, up towards the ceiling. Notice the bend in my back knee too, really important. 3. And our eyes looking towards your hand. I'll switch sides. Okay, and we'll go into the tricep stretch again. So to finish things off. Keeping the chin up, trying to create that distance between your elbow and your chest. Okay, we'll switch sides. Okay. So that brings us to the end of our third Finding Fitness Foundations of Strength and Conditioning course. We'll wrap things up for the week.